Hey everyone, so good to have you here. Oh my gosh, what a State of the Union that was, and what a fallout we've been seeing ever since. Leslie, thank you so much for your generosity. We are live today, and so I'm seeing some of the super chats in real time. Leslie has been here from the very beginning on this show, and I got to tell you guys, I mean, the news cycle is just moving so fast, right? We had a great State of the Union. He was super optimistic. You had some folks like Al Green out there, and the Democrats really not knowing how to handle this. They are just increasingly getting themselves into a situation from which I don't think they can return. You have some trying to take the party in one direction, Jasmine Crockett being one. Believe it or not, they're actually talking about her being on the ticket for 2028. I know it's horrifying, but we're going to get into that. And then you get Gavin Newsom saying something different to my friend Charlie Kirk. We'll talk about that. Meanwhile, I mean, my gosh, MSNBC. They were doubling down on all their hate. They were doubling down. I mean, going after a 13-year-old kid. I'm sorry, you just lost me, right? Well, you lost the president, too. He's out just moments ago, slamming the anchors on MSNBC, calling for them to be fired. But we begin today on a very, very big story, because the DOJ is now looking at criminal charges for 4 mayors of 4 different sanctuary cities. Because, you know, the idea here is you can't actually have these sanctuary cities. It doesn't really work now, does it? Because if you are a country, you have to have a certain expectation in terms of your border, in terms of laws. And guess what? Ladies and gentlemen, the federal government controls that. I've said all along, if there's one thing that they control, it is the borders. And so they have the right to demand of these mayors that they play by the actual federal law. And if they don't, then they can hold them accountable. And that's where we are right now. In fact, there was a hearing on this very thing. I want to get into some of the statements from Ana Paulina Luna, the representative of Florida, who, by the way, is leading the task force into the declassification of all kinds of material. But she's calling now on Pam Bondi to actually press criminal charges. We'll go to her in a moment, but first the fireworks, right? Let's start on the fireworks, because you had Ayanna Pressley out of Massachusetts, the representative, along with James Comer, who was running this hearing. By the way, because he's running the hearing, he has the ability and the authority to say, okay, this is what we're going to allow in it. This is what I want in it. And if you start taking us off on some tangent that's irrelevant to the matter at hand, then I have the right to say, we're going to throw that out. We're not going to put it in. So keep this in mind as you hear her say she wants to add certain kinds of evidence to the record. Let's watch.
Without objection, so ordered. We've put it in the record.
I have an internet.
You have what?
Mr. Chair, can I have several articles. I need to enter them. Let me just go ahead with what the articles are. What they speak to.
What's the next article?
Let me proceed. Data from Texas shows that U.S.-born Americans commit more rape and murder than immigrants.
Listen, this trend of you all trying to get thrown out of committee so you can get on MSNBC is going to end. We're not going to put up with it.
This is my procedural right as a member of this committee
you can go with Mr. Frost and Mr. Green.
I'm reclaiming my time.
That's what you want. No. Ms. Presley, I have been very accommodating to you. Mr. Subrignon,
and I take particular umbrage as a survivor of sexual violence.
Go.
I will insert into the record. This is my right. Thank you.
No. It is Mr. Subrignon.
Mr. Chair.
No, you know the process of unanimous consent. You are not recognized.
I have several articles to enter into the record.
Mr. Subrignon, if you don't go, we're going to recognize Mr. Timmons.
No, Ayanna Pressley, no, you can't actually put these things into the record. She's quite something. I've showed you guys this sound before, so I'm not going to play it again just now, but she has come out and said, we want to work with people who are willing to restrict the speech of U.S. citizens. It's like, really? I mean, you're going full-on commie? I guess so. Anyway, take a look here at what the actual rules are. I looked this up. So the chair, that would be James Comer in this situation, has the discretion over what is entered in the record. And while members of Congress often submit news articles and things that they want to include during for the record hearings, the chair can object if the materials are deemed irrelevant or not germane to the topic at hand. And his point is, look, we're trying to deal with the border situation. So you going on and on about, okay, well, we have statistics that show that immigrants are not actually committing as many crimes, it's completely irrelevant because it has nothing to do one or the other, okay? And Tom Homan has made this very, very clear. Our borders are, ladies and gentlemen. Here he is on Fox.
Congressman keeps saying they commit less crime than Americans. Who cares? Every crime committed by an illegal alien, preventable, they're not supposed to be here. It doesn't matter who does more. These are preventable crimes if we secure the border. And the border is more secure now than it ever has been because I'm working with the greatest president in my lifetime who has illegal immigration down 97%. He did that in 3 weeks. President Biden could have done it. He couldn't do it in 4 years. President Dunn did in 3 weeks. We got a safer border. Because we got a safer border, 97% less people are coming.
Yeah, that's a good thing, right? So, in other words, none of this has relation, one thing to another. In other words, if you're going to say, okay, well, it doesn't even matter. I mean, you could say, hey, they've never, ever committed a crime. They're perfectly fine. It's irrelevant because the point is they're not supposed to be here. So, by the way, when they do commit a crime, then you do have a much larger problem. We do know that 650,000 plus illegals here in the country are known to have committed violent crimes. In some cases, you have, according to ICE, more than 50,000 homicides, as well as massive numbers of assaults. I mean, that's not okay, right? So the mayors, going back to the mayors, we're talking Denver, we're talking Chicago, we're talking Boston, Michelle Wu out of Boston, my goodness, and we're talking New York. So here's Anna Paulina Luna, the representative from Florida, saying, look, you guys, I'm sorry, but time's up.
After this line of questioning, it's very clear that these policies that you have all implicated are active and alive and well in your cities, are in direct violation with U.S. Title 8 Code subsection 1324 and is a federal offense. But you all speak about a broken immigration system, and yet here you guys are aiding and abetting in that entire process. I want to be very clear about something. Open border policies, which is something that you guys are talking about, hurts people on both sides, meaning the people that are coming here illegally and then American citizens as well. I do not think you guys are bad people, but I think that you are ideologically misled, which is why, unfortunately, based on your responses, I'm all going to be criminally referring you to the Department of Justice for investigation. And as soon as I leave here, these will be going over to Pam Bondi. I'm not doing that in an effort to bully you guys, but I do believe that your policies are hurting the American people, and you can make that known with the evidence that you can present to the Department of Justice. But if you guys continue doing what you're doing, you're not going to help anyone. You're going to hurt more people, and that's exactly why I'm tired of it. The American people are tired of it. And Chairman, I yield my time.
So Anna Paulina Luna is doing something that needs to be done. And by the way, I spoke with people on her team who tell me she did actually refer all that to Pam Bondi, and Pam Bondi is looking at it as we speak. And I'm hearing that charges indeed will be filed. So, you know, and what's significant here is that they're criminal charges. Okay, that's a criminal referral. So I don't know, are you talking jail time? I mean, if you're going to be completely impeding the job of the federal officers, the ICE officers that are trying to make these arrests, if you're in the way of that as mayor and you're just flaunting it, then do you wind up in jail? It's an issue, right? So they're facing this. And by the way, it's not going to be just Boston and Denver and Chicago. It's going to be many, many, many more cities. And think about what it may mean even for Letitia James, our favorite Letitia James, because Letitia is already being charged because of her willingness to completely ignore federal law and come up with her own set of laws that are totally in violation of what the government is trying to do and what this president is trying to do. So you got to ask, what does this mean for Letitia? If they start going after the mayors, are they going to put Letitia James behind bars? Is this going to be a criminal prosecution? Frankly, I mean, you know how I feel about this. But just if you're joining for the very first time, make sure you subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff, give a comment, and know that I have no respect for one Letitia James. I think she is one of the most abominable, most viciously political attorneys I have ever seen. I don't think she's a very good attorney, but I think she's extraordinarily viciously political. And we cannot have people like that in our system because it just threatens everything. I mean, who the heck wants to go into politics, for goodness sakes, if that's what they're going to do to you? And all she wanted to do, all she wanted to do was put him behind bars and bankrupt him so that he could not become the next president of the United States of America. I mean, she told us over and over and over again, right?
We're here today because we have filed charges against the state of New York. We have filed charges against Kathy Hochul. We have filed charges against Letitia James and Mark Schroeder, who is with DMV. This is a new DOJ, and we are taking steps to protect Americans, American citizens, and angel moms, like the mom standing right behind me, who you're going to hear from in a moment. New York has chosen to prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens. It stops today.
Yeah. Okay. So this means you do need to actually, Pam, I'm just going to give you some girl-to-girl advice here. You do need to haul her, you know what, right into court because she is so flagrantly violating the law, and that is not okay. And the same with Kathy Hochul. But there's some bad blood, shall we say, when it comes to Letitia, because she did go after the president for something that he never ever should have gone after for. I mean, it was so bizarre, and I'm perhaps most offended of all of the cases, just as a business reporter and someone who cares so passionately about preserving capitalism and the success of this great meritocracy we have. You cannot get in between an individual bank and an individual client and somehow decide that his property in Florida, one Mar-a-Lago, is worth only $18 million, okay? All right, like, Letitia, I'll tell you, you may be political, you're not good at law, and you're not good at math, and you're certainly not very good at property valuation. Anyway, Pam's going after her, and I got to tell you, like, Homan is right with everything he's saying. Let's listen again to a little excerpt of his interview there just last night on Fox.
President Trump's saving lives, and they can't stand it because it's a political difference. It's not a realistic difference. It's about saving lives. That's what this country's about. Support law enforcement. Why is law enforcement all of a sudden, Tom Homan, we're the bad guys who we enforce the law, but the ones who break the law, the ones that rape?
That's a good question. So, you get bad people out there doing bad things, and somehow AOC, Letitia James, the ladies on The View, and a few others can only go after Tom. Like, suddenly Tom is the problem. I've known Tom a long time, by the way. He's a wonderful man. He is salt of the earth, and he is passionately, involved with and caring about making sure we do secure the border. This is what he wants to see done.
I'll wear this as a badge of honor. If I get and live in their heads rent-free every day, that's kind of cool, and I'm loving it, and I'm coming.
He's coming. He's getting them. You know what? Watch out. All of you, watch out. So, Letitia, watch out. I think that, the reality is Letitia James is going to actually face bigger problems than she's even possibly anticipating right now. Of course, that Pam Bondi cut off the funding. We've talked about that ad nauseum. And of course, that there was a judge that said, well, maybe you can't really do that. So Letitia James is like, oh, he can't. We filed this and it's a temporary thing. And so Donald Trump is ignoring it. He's like, yeah, well, we decided to cut off the funding and I run the executive branch and nothing's stopping me. I mean, eventually, theoretically, if it got all the way to the Supreme Court, then you would have an issue. But in the meantime, what's going down? Well, she filed another motion just last Friday. Like, she keeps filing these motions, because New York's got some problems. How are they going to really function without all that extra money coming in from the feds? So she's struggling. She's furious, but she has nowhere to go here, nowhere to go. And believe me, Pam Bondi has no use for this woman. I mean, you can go back to some of the protests on campus. By the way, horrible situation. I don't know if you saw at Barnum College, which is associated with Columbia University, my own alma mater. Today, just horrible stuff. And, you have these kids all riled up on college campuses all across America. And instead of protecting the students that needed protecting, Letitia was out still going after Trump. And you had law enforcement there in New York not caring about these students that were making the lives of the Jewish students really pretty hellish. I mean, it's just bonkers that we're living in this weird, twisted, upside-down world where you just throw out law and order. And believe me, this is not lost on one Pam.
I think in New York, to specifically talk about New York and to talk about Attorney General Letitia James, instead of sitting in a courtroom going after Donald Trump on bogus civil fraud cases, she should be out on the streets of New York with all of law enforcement. She's the chief law enforcement officer in New York. She should be out there condemning this, stopping this, calling for the arrest of these people who are vandalizing police cars. There are cameras all over New York City. They can catch these people. Look what Mayor Giuliani did to clean up New York, Manhattan, when he was mayor. She could be out there in the entire state and at all these college campuses saying, if you don't stop this, we will arrest you and we will charge you. That's exactly where I would be. And that's where she should be. And it makes me so mad because all of these Jewish students are at peril right now. Just what you said. And, I don't know if these students who are praising Gaza, if it's just ignorance on their part, right, what they're doing, if they don't understand. But if you have the chief law enforcement officer, meaning Tish James, out there condemning it, saying this has got to stop, we've got to protect our Jewish students as well as the Muslim students, say that, then it would stop. But nothing is happening to stop this. And people are,
nothing was happening because I think she's kind of okay with it. I mean, I think it's her view, right? I mean, you've seen this among so many of these woke academics. And her only mission at that point in time, and still, was to fight Donald Trump. That's all she could actually get through her head. It's like living, breathing, sleeping. I mean, again, we've seen the tape. Too male, too pale, too stale, right?
He's called me venomous.
We will fight back to your attempt to bring Trumpism to New York City.
He's called me disgraceful.
Of the fact that they stole the Supreme Court seat. An illegitimate president and an illegitimate member of the United States Supreme Court.
He's called me radical.
Listen, yes, we know he's crazy. Yes. We know he doesn't have a sound mind. Yes. We know he's out of control. Yes. We know he's losing it. Yes. We know his days are numbered and we will come together.
He's called me a racist.
We've got to stand up to an administration which is too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale.
Thank you.
Well, I wonder how that line's going to go over in prison. I mean, normally I wouldn't be so itching to see somebody prosecuted for that, but I got to tell you, this woman deserves it, every single bit of it. And now these mayors that are flaunting, Eric Adams is a little bit different, and I think that he's going to have a little bit more leadway because he's actively trying to make a difference. Of course, they're all over him for it in New York City, but you look at Michelle, they're in Massachusetts, in Boston. You look at what's going on in Denver. I mean, they've had ICE raids that got called in. According to Homan, that's because he believes the FBI has tipped them off. I mean, you cannot have any kind of system if we're all fighting each other this way. So what they have to do, I mean, it's been 12 years, right, of Democrats. You had actually make it 16. Because Donald Trump didn't have a chance in HELL when he first came in there. They were just out to get him, right, from day one. Comey and company. Everybody was out to get him. Incidentally, he just signed an executive order moments ago telling Perkins Coie, that's the law firm that represented Hillary Clinton, that they couldn't have any White House security clearances anymore. Perkins Coie is the law firm that went out and purchased that nifty little report from Fusion GPS. They're trying to wash it so that it doesn't go directly back to Hillary, but they were representing her campaign. They went out and got the Fusion GPS report. Fusion GPS went and hired Christopher Steele. Christopher Steele delivered all that nonsense, the so-called Russian dirty dossier that launched all the craziness to begin with. Okay, that was the Russia thing, which incidentally, you can't help but hear them go back to over and over and over again. One Jasmine Crockett, I believe the headline was, she's calling Trump Putin's HO. I'll leave it at that. I mean, they're going right back there, okay? Well, we don't need a repeat of that. And we're not going to have a repeat of that because you know what? Things have changed and all of these people are in violation of the law. And we're talking criminal prosecution here. Criminal prosecution, including for one AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Yeah, and she's nervous. You know that. She's nervous. That's why she's writing Pam letters and saying, am I next? Am I next? Very, very nervous. Before I get to that, I'm celebrating an anniversary of sorts. That's 1 year at 76research.com. We started, I should say, 76research.com exactly 1 year ago this week. Take a look. Amazing portfolio performance. If you're interested in any of this, you can get the 76 report. Use code word dollar. My gift to you, dollar, DOLLAR, 76 report. You can get it at 76research.com or 76report.com. Or if you want to get the portfolios, I mean, this is where the value add is. 10 to 15 stocks in each one. Take a look at those. We just put a note out, by the way, for 76 Report on one of our picks, which we're disclosing. It's actually up 8%, and we actually think it can benefit from some of the tariff situation. So take a look at that, 76portfolios.com, or go to 76research.com if you want to use code word dollar. But really and truly, I can't encourage you enough to start investing today, and let us help you however we can in terms of this research, which is, you know what, really unrivaled. Totally unrivaled. Anyway, let me get back to the news here. That's just a little plug from me because it has been a year and I'm excited, so you're going to hear me talk about it a lot. Anyway, AOC is about to be charged by Trump's DOJ. If you remember, let me go back in time a little bit. You remember this little clip between AOC and Tom Homan? This is unbelievable. This was a couple years ago.
Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that separated children from their
If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father from his family.
Mr. Homan, with all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you're into the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum, you go through the port of entry, do it the legal way. The Attorney General of the United States has made that clear.
Okay. Mr. Chair, the memo is submitted to the record for review. Inspector General Costello, one last thing. Is there
Right? He's like, here's the drill. Here's the drill, honey. All right. And she had nowhere to go out of that. Thank you, RN Explorer. Appreciate the generosity and appreciate the congratulations on the anniversary of 76 Research. But you can see, like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She just has this agenda. Well, guess what? You know what? Hispanics overwhelmingly came over to Trump. Blacks. He's winning with blacks in ways that they never anticipated they could actually make any inroads with. I mean, you look at the latest poll numbers. Harvard-Harris, it's a Democrat poll, just came out a couple days ago, and guess what? 53% of the country approves of him right now. 53%, guys, that's a big deal. Okay, so AOC's realizing, you know what, the train has left the station. They're going after Letitia James. Hey, maybe she feels left out. They're going after the mayors. She's like, are you coming after me? Are you coming after me? I'm going to send you a letter.
You had a recent dispute, if that's the right word, with Tom Homan, the president's Homeland Security czar, so-called. You held an online forum, a Know Your Rights forum, that he didn't like. What were you doing? What was your goal as you saw it?
My job is to educate and act as a liaison of critical information to my constituents. And I was informing all of my constituents of their constitutional protections, and in particular, their constitutional protections against illegal search and seizure in the United States.
Okay, it takes him a minute.
Homan was upset, I suppose, because he felt that you were giving advice to people who were here illegally. Were you?
I was giving advice to all of my constituents. Yeah.
He said he was going to report you, or even that he did reach out to the Department of Justice. Have you heard from the Department of Justice?
I have not, and I intend on reaching out to the Department of Justice to inquire.
Really? What would your question be for the Department of Justice?
Well, there is a member of the Trump administration who is threatening and seeks to open an inquiry. And are you going to do it?
Takes him a minute again.
What would you learn? What do you hope to learn from that exchange?
I think it's important to know where this administration stands and if they intend on using political intimidation to silence their critics.
So I'm kind of stuck on this idea that somehow her constituents are people that are here illegally. Those are her constituents? I mean, that's who she thinks she's out there to fight for? I'm sorry. You know what, AOC? You got it all wrong. I know you want them to be able to vote for you, but they still can't, right? Because they're still here illegally. You shouldn't be working on behalf of illegals, and certainly not on behalf of criminals. You don't want to cooperate with ICE when they know that somebody has a homicidal record, and you're like, no, let me help you not cooperate with ICE. This is what she's sending on her social media post. She's doing it in English. If you see ICE in public, you get a verified document share. Once verified, share information, blah, 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 blah. Oh, and then it goes into Spanish, right? Just in case, because, we know her target for this. It's truly, truly amazing. And this is why Tom Homan is so perturbed.
This is the guy that you locked in a jail cell. That's who we want to talk to.
Well, I mean, look, you've got Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez doing webinars to explain to illegal immigrants how to evade ICE arrest. And then she tweeted out after something you said maybe she's going to be in trouble now. And she says maybe he can learn to read the Constitution would be a good place to start. She's continuing her resist efforts against your efforts, Tom.
Look, I forgot more about the Constitution, immigration enforcement as you ever know. I mean, I had to educate her during congressional testimony that entering the country illegally is a crime. So, whatever. But what she needs to do is read the statutes enacted by Congress. Title 8, United States Code 1324, United States. Title 8, United States Code 1324 and 25. That's what she needs to read, because it's illegal to enter this country. It's a crime to enter this country illegally. Not only that, when you harbor and conceal and impede law enforcement, that's a felony. So what she's doing, she says she's educating them as to the constitutional rights, and we all know they got constitutional rights. But what she's really doing, you and I and the rest of the country knows, she's trying to teach them how to evade law enforcement. Now, I just said, well, out of the gate, we're concentrating on public safety threats, national security threats. So she's educating those in the country illegally with a significant criminal conviction, public safety threat. Don't open your door. Don't talk to ICE. Here's how you invade law enforcement. Let's hope she's not educating the next person who gets out and murders a young college student in Georgia. I mean, these are bad people we're looking for. So she can call it education all she wants, but we all know it's about evading law enforcement. These people have been ordered removed. The people we're looking for right now have final orders. They're criminals. They're in the country illegally. A judge has ordered them removed. They become a fugitive. And these are the folks she's helping? So I've asked the Department of Justice to look at this. Where is the line on impediment? Where does that fine line so we can instruct ICE officers what they can do when people don't open the door?
I think we're going to find out. All right. I think we're going to find out. I think you're going to find out with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. You're going to find out with Letitia James. You're going to find out with these sanctuary mayors in these different cities, because you cannot continue to obstruct federal law. I mean, they're going to find out very soon. And I know everybody's like a little bit impatient. And I know everybody's a little bit frustrated with Pam, especially after what happened with the original set of Epstein documents. I get it, right? I get it. But I would advise everybody to take a deep breath and have a little patience here, because it's not going to happen overnight. They've only been there, a month and change. We just had the joint address to Congress. Amazing stuff has happened. They have reduced the number of people coming here illegally into the country by something like 97%. It's really pretty stunning. And I think that there will be a price to pay. Listen, they know what they need to do. They know they need to clean house. They know they had 8 years of Obama and his deep state there, followed by 4 years of a continuation of deep state, even though Donald Trump was in charge. And then you had 4 years of Biden, and they bulked up, right? Using all that NGO money, courtesy of you and me and every taxpayer in the United States of America that we're now finding out about thanks to Doge. So all this is being exposed. And yes, I get it, AOC, you're worried, and this is why you sent a letter to Pam Bondi trying to figure it out. But Pam Bondi right now is trying to figure out legally the best path forward to go after all of these people. And she will. Believe me, she will. I know that. All right. We gotta talk about what Trump's saying about MSNBC, because these hosts are out of control. I mean, it's so sad. For goodness sakes, guys, you're going after 13-year-old. I'm sorry. But before we do that, a quick shout out to one of our sponsors here on the show, helping me to bring this program to you for free every single day. We love our friends at American Heart for Gold. I was going to say we love gold. I do love gold. I've always loved gold. I continue to love gold. I really love gold right now. I'm really glad I have it. And anytime it goes down, I actually add to the position. You should check this out, American Heart for Gold. Go to trishlovesgold.com because you can get up to $15,000 in free silver today with qualifying offers. trishlovesgold.com. You can text Trish to 65532 or just call them at 1-844-495-1115. Okay. The President of the United States is not holding back in terms of what he thinks about a couple of MSNBC hosts. Let me play this one for you. This just came in moments ago. He's talking about two MSNBC hosts in particular. Don't forget one of them whose name it just escapes my mind. Thank you. It came to me. Nicole Wallace. She hosts like a 4:00 show, I think, on MSNBC. She's absolutely awful on television, but this tells me not only is she bad on TV, she is just a bad person through and through. I'm going to play you what she said, but first, hear the president right now talking about how disgusting these journalists are at MSNBC.
Just as a follow-up, the other night, we saw Democrats' behavior during your joint address to Congress. Yeah. Do you think it shows just how out of touch they are with the American people, especially given that 79%, according to a CBS poll, approved of your
I love this guy. Who are you with?
My name's Nick Gilbertson with Breitbart News.
I see. I really liked your questions.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Sir, regarding the executive order.
The answer is just, Nick, and I know your name very well. Good job, you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, the answer is I thought it was very embarrassing for the Democrats what happened the other night. And that's not said for any other reason other than it's obvious, it's fact. Even CNN fake news said that. They came out and they said it. And worse than CNN is MSDNC, which is the worst. And the good news is very few people watch them anymore. They have lost such credibility. And frankly, what Nicole Wallace said, I've never been a fan of hers, and she's not very talented. But I'll tell you, what she said the other day about that young man is disgraceful. She should be forced to resign. And Rachel Maddow should be forced to resign. Nobody watches her anyway. I don't know if it's not possible they pay her as much money as I hear. But certainly she's lost all credibility, both of them. But what they said the other day, they should be forced to resign about that young person who is suffering greatly. Thank you, Nick.
Wow. Okay, so that might have actually, believe it or not, in some weird way, actually helped save Nicole Wallace and Rachel Maddow their jobs, because there's been a growing chorus of people now that are saying, okay, they got to go. They got to go. And I'm going to play you this sound, and I think you're going to come out exactly where I am. Like, this is not okay. Like, we have lost all level of civility. I mean, this poor kid, he's dying of brain cancer. 17 years old.
It was.
I want you to see it. Here we go. Do we have it? Here we go.
But I think this was a lesson in finding one thing that you let yourself feel. And I let myself feel joy about DJ. And I hope he's alive for another, 95 years, right? And I hope he lives and the life he wants to live. He wants to be a cop. He knows what he wants to do. And maybe when you have childhood cancer, that crystallizes for you. And I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer. But I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump's supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to suicide. And I hope he isn't one who has to testify against the people who carried out acts of seditious conspiracy and then live to see Donald Trump pardon those people.
Oh, my gosh. She wants to add certain kinds of evidence. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Guys, this is their future, right? I mean, is this really where I'm sort of speechless? And I've heard it before, so I shouldn't be speechless, but I'm so struck by the lack of humanity in this woman to say anything like that. I mean, she is clearly not just a terrible host, but a really bad person, a really, really, really bad person. I'm stunned. I really, really am stunned. I do want to say thank you. I'm seeing some of your comments here about her. I see we have not too many fans for one Nicole Wallace here, Roberto Pasilius. Thank you so much. So that's just a compliment for me. I'll take that. Roberto, thank you so much. I so appreciate it. And I love that you love the program. I do believe I saw one of you guys actually talking about Nicole, and you had absolutely no use for her. Listen, you can't be so lacking in just kindness, right? Like, I mean, how is anybody? She's a bad person. I mean, that is my takeaway. She's not just a bad journalist who sucks on television. Okay, I mean, she has no personality. Oh, this is what you're saying. She doesn't even move her mouth when she talks. Yeah. She's awful, okay? She's nothing to look at. She's got not a lot of intelligence there. She says nothing insightful. And then we learn that she's a miserable you know what. She needs to be fired. I mean, listen, I wouldn't put up with this if I were MSNBC. There's no way. They have a new boss there right now. They're getting rid of all kinds of people. They got rid of one Joy Reid, did they not, who cried on her way out the door? I think it's time to get rid of this woman. I think it's also time to get rid of one Rachel Maddow, because I don't think we need to go down any conspiratorial rabbit holes anymore. Let her do that on her own little thing. All right? These are not people that are helpful in contributing to the conversation. Mr. Know-It-All, thank you so much for the generosity. Much appreciated. And I think we've got one more that I wanted to give a shout out to. I mean, I'm blown away by how it was Roberto saying, the bit about her mouth. She doesn't even move her mouth when she talks. Listen, I don't understand it. I don't know why she has a job in television. Really, I mean, there's nothing there. There's no magic. There's no sparkle. There's no energy. And there's no empathy. And if there's one thing you need to have in this business, it's empathy. And they can say all they want about Donald Trump, but you know what? He's got a heck of a lot of empathy. And because he has that empathy, he is leagues ahead of them in terms of understanding the issues that Americans care about, because he has the empathy chip and he gets what other people are thinking and feeling. He understands why maybe you don't want your daughter competing for a college sports scholarship against somebody who was born a boy. I mean, he gets that. He gets what it's like. I mean, he probably doesn't understand it anymore, right? But well, maybe he does. He's sort of notoriously cheap. He watches every dime, right? That's why he's getting rid of the pennies, if you would. He's going to make sure that we somehow become more solvent one way or another. He gets that Americans are feeling a lot of pressure and a lot of heat because of the economy. All of these things he understands in ways that these liberals, and I'll count her as a liberal, even though she was once a conservative, in their ivory towers just can't comprehend. And I think it comes down to that soundbite that we just played. When they don't have empathy, they don't have anything. And you're not going to win an election without an understanding and appreciation for where people are coming from. So Nicole Wallace, yes, she should be done. Rachel Maddow, too, for that matter. The president is right to call on them to resign. I'll tell you, the Democrats are desperate. I mean, they're getting more and more and more desperate by the minute. They had this little act of defiance the other night there. You saw Al Green, right, at the State of the Union. That was quite a little act. And then today he said, I'm proud of it. I'm doubling down. He's doubling down on this as the party realizes they have to change. And you'd think maybe they're going to change for the good. No. They want to change for the bad. They're like looking at this Jasmine Crockett. I mean, she makes AOC look smart. They're looking at Jasmine Crockett as potentially a 2028 candidate. Kid you not. I mean, it's being discussed because they think that she's like this bright future. And I'm like, Wow, you guys really don't get it. You really don't. Anyway, here is Al Green saying today he'd do it all over again.
Friends, I would do it again. I have to be candid with you. I'm not trying to in some way insult you. This is a matter of principle. This is a matter of conscience. There are people suffering in this country because they don't.
All right. So he's not sorry. He would do it again. And when he got censured today, the Democrats' answer was to start singing. And badly, I would add. I say that as a classically trained opera singer. It's hard on my ears when I hear things like this.
A motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The House will come to order. The House will come to order. Shh. Will Representative Green present himself to the well?
Okay. So he's coming up, I guess, or not. And they're starting to gather, and somehow they're...
By its adoption of House Resolution 189, the House has resolved that Representative Al Green be censured, that Representative Al Green forthwith present himself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker.
Can you hear the singing? I'm sorry, guys. You know what? You got nothing. You got nothing. You got no issues. You don't have any candidates. You're looking to Jasmine Crockett. That's when you know you really, really, really start to have a problem, okay? Jasmine Crockett. Now, do you guys know who she is? She's the woman from Texas. Leslie, I'm sorry. I know you're from the great state of Texas. I don't know how they elect somebody like this. Jeff Iverson, thank you so much for the generosity. I'm going to get to you in a second. I just don't know how they elect somebody like this at all because, well, let me show you. Here she is singing a rather controversial song. Controversial because, you know, they played this one in the Super Bowl and it didn't go over so well. It was, you know, really considered kind of divisive, if you would. And this particular song was sung by Kendrick Lamar. You remember that at the Super Bowl? It came under a lot of criticism. I'm not going to actually play the music. I have to do this carefully because, well, we can't. There's music rights and he may go after us. Here we go. Okay, so I'm cutting out the music, but you can see her dancing with her gal pals in her office, and the Democrat Party is talking about this woman like she's actually their future. Now, in a weird way, she might actually be. Now, hear me out for a second, because by the way, she can't dance. She really can't dance. I mean, so she's doing a TikTok lip syncing video through the halls of Congress, and that's all they got. They're talking about running her for the presidency of the United States of America or putting her on as VP. So that tells you how desperate they are. And, you know, one of my team members, David, and I were talking about this earlier, and it was like, okay, this is awful, this is bad, this is tragic. But in some weird ways, she seems to be the only one that's like resonating. So they're turning to her instead of AOC. AOC, after all, didn't perform. They didn't get the Hispanics. So they're thinking maybe this woman can help us win back the black vote. But I don't think so. I don't think she's actually going to reach the people that do vote. And I don't think she's got the right message either. Not at all. I mean, she's just, I mean, here she is doing another little stint and she's trash talking the president. And it's kind of gross, but look, she's gross.
Listen, he up there, he's spewing all kinds of nonsense and bullshit. Let me just be real. And we wasn't gonna sit for that shit. We wouldn't, you know. We showed up, and if he had some sense, then maybe we would have been about that life. But y'all know he ain't got no sense. So please give some love. This took a little bit of coordinating to do for sure. We got some cool shirts. We got Madam Williams, who just happens to have the honorary seat. It's not even honorary because she's holding it down, y'all. But the legend himself, John Lewis, that is...
Okay, you know what? Everybody was laughing at this. She kind of made a fool of herself. The Democrats as a whole, with their little signs and everything, totally made fools of themselves. They have really just, you know, I don't know, joined the full-on disaster category. And I would say it goes back to this. It goes back to what we were talking about with Nicole Wallace, like having no empathy, not understanding the reality that some other people have, not being able to be kind enough as a human being to recognize the challenges of a 13-year-old with brain cancer. I mean, this isn't rocket science, but this is how low they have fallen, okay? They have fallen into the gutter. This is the swamp in action, and this actually has to change, but I don't know if they can do it. I mean, Scott Jennings nailed it. Maybe about a month ago, he said something, and I played it for you then. I'm going to play it for you now because this is the issue. Like every single thing they could possibly come out on, they're always on the wrong side, like really wrong side. Watch Scott.
Trump is like the 80-20 president. He gets on the right side of all these 80-20 issues. Democrats knee-jerk and take the 20. And then what happens? Today, CBS News poll this morning, Donald Trump sitting at a 53% approval rating, the highest he's ever recorded in that survey. Why? Because Democrats are taking the wrong side of all of these obvious issues, number one. And number two, they're giving him an enormous amount of latitude to move fast and break things, which I heard used in a pejorative fashion. But when you're talking about the government, that's what people want.
Well, and Democrats
Trump to do.
Yeah. So in other words, he's doing what they want. And you know what? The polls now, all new ones, one out of CBS YouGov, another out of Harvard Harris, they all show that American people are with him. They're with him on Doge. They're with him on the border. They're with him on women's sports. And so the Democrats are looking around and like, they got nothing. They don't actually have the winning issues. And so you got one ambitious governor out in California who has not done much for his state, to say the least. That would be one Gavin Newsom. You know, he might be thinking it's time to maybe come a little bit more to the central, maybe actually embrace some of these things that people care about. Wait till you hear what he told my friend Charlie Kirk. I'm going to get to that in a second. But it's being said, it's important to understand, against this backdrop, against a backdrop where people like even in rural Maine are digging in their heels. If they're Democrats, they're saying, we're going to stand up for boys that want to play girls' sports. And Donald Trump's not having it. He's like, I'll see you in court and your political career is over because you are a moron. Basically, my word's not his, but take a peek.
The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine? Well, are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
Well, we are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor because I don't think you'll be in elected politics.
He's right. She's not going to be because things are turning and they're turning so quickly, at least for those of the Democrat Party that get it. And that's a minority right now, that you had one Governor Newsom of California sit down with Charlie, who I've known a long time. I used to put him on my Fox show once a week, sometimes twice a week. He's really smart. He's very good. He sat down with Gavin and he's like, you know, are you really thinking about this the right way? And wait till you hear what Gavin said. Let's play it.
Like, you right now should come out and be like, you know what? The young man who's about to win the state championship in the long jump in female sports, right. that shouldn't happen. You as the governor should step out say no.
No, and I appreciate
but like, would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that.
Excuse me? Gavin, is that you? Oh, wow. So he has ambitions of running for president in 2028, and he knows that the country's not with him on whether it be women's sports, whether it be excessive spending, whether it be the border. And I don't know how he's going to quite backtrack because, you know, California's proud of, say, for example, providing transgender inmates in prison with operations and trans care should they so desire it. So he's going to have a lot of explaining to do in terms of the policies he's championed there in California. But the fact that he did that, first of all, the fact that he went on Charlie's show, the fact that he said that and was sort of like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. It's like, who are you? What just happened? What are you doing? Maybe he's reading some of these poll numbers and he's figuring it out. But I don't think everyone's that smart. In fact, the party right now is really angry with him. They're like, what are you doing? Because we're all about men playing women's sports, right? I'm sorry. People born as males that now believe they are females playing women's sports. I'm sorry, guys. You know, you lose us. You're losing us fast. And you know what? I don't have to be the one to tell you. Let's let Stephen Smith, sportscaster, he went on to The View. Okay, so Stephen Smith went on to The View the other day and literally had to tell these ladies to their face, this is priceless. This is the moment you got to see. When Stephen tells Joy Behar, as she tries to say, it's not a mandate. And he looks at her, he's like, yeah, it's a mandate. A serious mandate. Thank you, Stan Liberty, for the generosity. Much appreciated. Let's watch.
Only been in office for 6 weeks. Seems like 6 years, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And he's been going around with his cronies touting his so-called landslide and blowout win. But he won the popular vote by 1.5%, one of the smallest ever, and he won the general election by less than 50%. So what kind of mandate is this really?
Well, it is a mandate, and I'm going to explain why. And I don't mind the question, but let me be very clear. I'm no supporter of Trump. I'm a supporter of truth and the facts. And here's the facts. The man won every swing state. He increased in terms of his voter turnout in his favor from the standpoint of blacks, Latinos, and young voters. He increased his numbers in that regard from 2020. 89% of the counties shifted to the right. That's a mandate. We can sit up there and play around all we want to. In 2020, Trump didn't win the popular vote. He didn't win the Electoral College vote. A matter of fact, the Republicans hadn't won the popular vote, if I remember correctly, since 2004. Yeah. But they did this year. So 20 years after they last won the popular vote, they won the popular vote. They won the Electoral College vote. The man won every swing state. And on top of it all, 89% of the counties shifted against. I don't understand how people can look at that and say, there's no mandate. There's a mandate.
What's a different definition of a mandate, I guess?
But the problem is that if you're the Democratic Party and you lost 49.8% to 48.3%, and you're looking at that 1.5% dip, that's an excuse for you to say, what we did really wasn't that bad.
Some people didn't
we should continue to do that. Don't continue to do it. Find a new strategy.
He's giving them some really good advice. I mean, I thought I gave him some really good advice. A couple years back, I was like, you can't run Joe. Okay, you just can't run Joe. And you definitely can't run Kamala. And what did they do? They ran Joe and then they ran Kamala. It's like, wow, guys. I mean, get outside yourself, would you? Listen to Stephen Smith. Now, I don't necessarily want to do him any favors, in all seriousness, but it's amazing to me how people can be so darn wrong over and over and over again. It's like, this is not working, okay? The country's not with you. I don't care how much NGO money you spend trying to convince us. You know, there's just some basic intrinsic things that we as human beings kind of get. And one of the things most of us really get is something simple like gender. So, Stephen, you're doing Joy a favor. You're doing ABC a favor by going on there and explaining the facts of life, if you would. Because they're living in la la land, and it's dangerous for them. It's dangerous for people who watch them, and it is dangerous for the Democrat Party, except for the fact that the Democrat Party is just going to keep losing and losing and losing and losing and losing. So we're okay with that, right? We can humiliate those hosts all we want. I still don't think it's gonna sink in because of who they are. I'm getting better. You can hear my voice is getting better. I'm traveling right now. So I really need my Balance in Nature. A quick shout out to our friends at Balance in Nature. Balanceinnature.com. You can get 35% off. Use code word Trish. 35% off plus free shipping plus money back guarantee. All that good stuff. It is a multivitamin that I take every day. My fruits and veggies. And these are gummies. They taste really good. So I like them. They're gluten free for those of you that care. And they're just a great way to get your nutrients. And so I got the first cold I have gotten this year since I've been taking it for like basically a year. And it's been terrific. I haven't gotten a cold until now, of course. And, you know, you hear it a little bit, but I'm doing all right. And I credit them even with the fact that I'm doing all right. And the fact that I only got one. The kids have had like 5. Anyway, I wanted to get to some of the comments before I went to this other story, the cast of Hamilton. Did you see this, guys? Oh my goodness. Oh, a piece of my mind. You're so cute. He said, if I ever get too much gold, don't hesitate to send some over. Listen, that's why I created, in all seriousness, not to sound like a broken record, but this is why I created 76 Research. I kid you not, because people, you know, it's intimidating. It's hard to figure out what to invest in. And so we put these 3 portfolios together, model portfolios. You can see the stocks in these portfolios. These are top 5 holdings in each one. They've been absolutely killing it. So that's a passion of mine. I want you guys to succeed. And I want you to be able to take care of yourself. If you're not ready for a portfolio, at least get my gift to you. Use code word $. It's our 1-year anniversary. Go to 76research.com and use the code word. I'm looking at Stan. Thank you so much for that comment. He said, if I ever run for president, that I've got his vote. Thank you. I would just like you to make sure you have subscribed. I think you have, Stan, right here on the channel. And so many of you, you know, it's good to have such a huge community here. I want to get to our next story, guys, because wow, did you see Hamilton? Have you seen this show, by the way? I actually haven't seen it, which is sort of surprising for me because I was an American history major and I absolutely love Alexander Hamilton. And I've never been to Nevis, but I've kind of always wanted to go, or Nevis, however you say it, in the Caribbean, because it's his birthplace. And I've just, you know, I read the Hamilton biography, and, you know, he was such a, you know, he's the first Treasury Secretary. I mean, he's kind of a big deal, right? Like kind of a hero to me. So you'd think I'd see this show, but I knew it was woke. And, you know, I just don't have 2 hours plus to sit there in a theater and listen to wokeness. So forgive me, I haven't seen it, but I've heard it's very good. And now it was playing at the Kennedy Center, and it's gone away. It's going bye-bye. They just canceled the run at the Kennedy Center, and they're canceling it over Trump. You see, Trump put in a whole new board at the Kennedy Center, and it is actually being spearheaded, Roberto, thank you, by my friend Rick Grinnell. Rick Grinnell, who's the former ambassador to Germany. Roberto likes the voice. Yeah, it's a little bit lower than it normally would because I'm still getting over the remnants of a cold. But you know, maybe I could probably really belt out a tune in Hamilton right about now. Anyway, these guys are leaving their run of show at the Kennedy Center because of Trump. And I'm like, this is so stupid. You people have to like reduce everything to politics, and it's so annoying. It's so annoying. Hamilton, who's one of the founding fathers, who actually, you know, it's great that you're there in D.C. and you should look the other way, frankly. You're actors. You're singers and dancers. Like, don't sit there and talk to me about politics. But this is all they can do. It's like what they feel a mission to do. Remember back in 2016 when Mike Pence, who I'm sure they love now, but back in 2016 they had no use for him. He had just been elected, he and Donald Trump, and they got word, the cast did, that he was in the audience. And so just as he was leaving at the end of the show, look what happened. They tried to shame him, and the audience is booing him, and it was really kind of ugly. The Hamilton cast.
We, sir, we are the diverse America who are alarmed and anxious that your new administration will not protect us, our planet, our children, our parents, or defend us and uphold our...
Yeah, lovely. All right, well, they're all upset. They're all upset because, as you can see in this statement, they're like, oh, you know, well, disagreement and debate are vital expressions. Somehow, you know, the fact that Donald Trump is now in office and now has his board installed at the Kennedy Center, that means we can't perform there anymore. Wow. You know, it kind of reminds me of the Snow White thing. It reminds me of her saying that, you know, because you know, if you were a Trump supporter, if you were Donald Trump, you should never know peace. It's like these actors are taking, and I'm like, why are they doing it? I think it goes back, between you and me, to the NGO money. I think it goes back to USAID and the efforts that have been made to infiltrate Hollywood and culture, etc. I really do. I mean, look at Oprah getting $2 million to sit down with one Kamala Harris, and they probably didn't even get as many views as we get on a live right here. I mean, it was crazy. And then you think about the $500,000 that Rev Sharpton got to sit down again with Kamala. I mean, these are paid interviews. These are sponsored interviews. They're like commercials like I do for Balance in Nature, right? They're sponsored. I mean, I actually really like Balance in Nature. And maybe Rev Sharpton really liked Kamala Harris. But still, you got to disclose it, for goodness sakes. I mean, that's a network television show. That's cable TV. You can't sit there and pretend that you're doing something and acting like a journalist. Not that we ever thought you were, but you get where I'm going. I mean, it's highly, highly, highly unethical. And so, yeah, the cast of Hamilton is out. All right, so be it. Bye-bye. See you later, guys, right? Anyway, quick reminder again, one of the sponsors, because I tell you about my sponsors, American Heart for Gold. Our friends at American Heart for Gold, you can go to trishlovesgold.com, get up to $15,000 in free silver. Call 1-800-495-1115. And again, I cannot stress this enough, 76portfolios.com. Sign up for a portfolio. Better yet, get all the portfolios. Become a Founders Club member. I am going to be back here tomorrow. It is wonderful to see you all again. I appreciate the generosity. You have no idea what that means to me. Really, you guys have just become a tremendous, tremendous group here. And I love getting together with you like this. So thank you for all you do. Make sure if you haven't, subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, and I'll see you tomorrow.